I'm Dawn. Welcome to Aurora Cellars patio, right off the tasting room. It's virtual happy hour time in July, and this is Drew. Hi, Drew. How are you doing?
Good. How are
Drew
you?
is our head winemaker for Simpson Family Estates. So, thanks for taking time to be here.
Yeah.
We have our wine out already. We've been chatting a little bit, but getting ready for joining you guys.
It's always easy to make time for this.
I like the sound of our glasses too. So we have, today we have Pinot Noir from 2020 harvest. And you guys probably can hear some tractors and all the vineyard work happening around us. Hopefully you can hear us well. We're in another area, but man, it's busy season.
Yeah.
We're
Right
at
now it's post bloom, so that's where we are. That's why the guys are spraying right now.
Okay.
It's to kind of help with fruit set. It helps to actually get that little cap off. If you ever see the grape flower, it looks like nothing.
Yeah.
And so it has like a little cap there that can actually, if it doesn't get blown off, bacteria can actually collect on there, and it can actually affect the fruit set, and it can kind of lead to disease issues. So that's why they're going through right now to kind of help facilitate that.
So the flower has a little, dries up and has a cap?
Yeah.
On top of, then the fruit's
what
developing
becomes
underneath.
the fruit down below. Yep.
So you want to blow that off.
Yeah.
And that spray will help that.
It'll help that. It's also help preventing any bacteria from getting into that cluster as it develops.
Nice.
So yeah.
So good work. Our vineyard crew is amazing, as well as our production team. Lots of happening. Every month there's something happening. So what is, can you tell us more about bloom? Is that just when the flowers come out and then we're ready for that?
Yeah, you get these inflorescence, they look like little miniature grapes, like little miniature grape clusters, and then you just have this little tiny white specks all over them. Those are the actual flowers there. And then that they actually self-pollinate, so you don't have to bring in bees or anything, which is nice. And yeah, it's a pretty uneventful thing for most people. We look for it because it's important. Obviously, it's going to determine our fruit set. So really, as long as we're not getting crazy weather during bloom, like just insane winds and just torrential downpours, we're going to have a good fruit set. So it's going to determine our crop. So we have those potential clusters there. So as long as everything goes according to plan, that should develop and determine our crop for the coming year.
Okay. So, what was I thinking? I guess, so self-pollinating, are all grape varietals self-pollinating, or is that what we grow here mostly?
I think so.
That's a hard question.
I guess I don't know that. I would assume so.
That's interesting. I didn't think of it before, but you're right. That's a benefit.
We don't bring in anything. Yeah, we don't have to rely on
like other fruit farmers and orchards. They need to bring in beehives and stuff in case.
Yep.
Because I remember one year we have just a couple little fruit trees in our yard that we have apples and stuff, and one year it was like the bees were there and they weren't flowering, and then the bees were not there and they were flowering. We're like, are we gonna have any apples?
Yeah.
It was one of those things. So that's neat.
Yeah.
For the grapes and vines. So what is the next thing? What are we looking for next? Is that right away, or is it a few weeks we're looking for the next thing?
Next thing, we're not really overly worried about the fruit now. Now we're worried about the canopy, so just the leaves overall and how the shoots are growing. So at this point, there's a lot of shoot growth. They're growing up and through the trellis. So at this point, what we're doing is we are basically cutting the vines at the tips once they get through the trellis, so it's hedging.
Okay.
And then we are also, during that same time period, we're going through with our leaf blower, basically. It's removing leaves in the fruit zone And we like to do that early to help remove the caps, as well as just to open up that fruit zone in general, to start getting light onto those clusters directly.
Yeah, that is so cool. The what do you call the leaf blowing?
Just leaf blower, yeah.
I mean, it's literally like
yeah.
so interesting to watch the mechanics of that happen. And I think we have some really great videos of that on our blogs and our Instagram reels if you want to go back. And I'm sure there'll be some coming this year too. But yeah, that was amazing because have you been doing that for 2 years?
I think 3 years now. It's made everything significantly easier because the only other way to do that is to do it by hand, to go through and actually pull leaves by hand.
Yeah.
And people always have this sort of kind of image that doing things by hand is more romantic and is better and better quality, which isn't actually true. In fact, they've done studies on, if you see the way the leaves get removed is just blasting pulses of air as it goes through, it actually kind of shreds the leaf a little bit, and it creates sort of almost like leaf shrapnel. Those shredded leaves actually are beneficial because they will trigger a hormonal reaction, which helps in development of basically skin compounds. It actually triggers everything to kind of move a little bit faster in terms of fruit development.
Really?
And so you're actually getting a secondary benefit by what it doesn't look as perfect as hand removal does.
Yeah.
But it has this secondary benefit. And even if there is like just a little shred of a leaf left, it can still photosynthesize. So it still has value.
Yeah.
Really, we're just removing those basal leaves because they start to lose any sort of value later on down farther into the season. And we want to just really open up that fruit zone to get airflow through there, to get direct sunlight onto the fruit.
Yeah.
So it has a lot of benefits. But like at Aurora here, because of the way the vineyard's planted, we can't get the automatic one through, so we have to do it by hand here.
Okay, so I still see both ways happening. I wondered that's why. So just the width of the area?
Inconsistency in the width.
Got it.
Yep.
So some of the vines are quite old here.
Yeah.
So you have, have anything to do? So you're removing those because is the vine putting too much effort into something that's not going to help you next year too? Is that part of it, or is it not like a? It really
is. It's more about just getting that fruit zone open.
Okay. So just the light on it and the air.
The airflow. Yep.
And then some of the shrapnel, I like that, the leaf shrapnel, is it mulching? Is that
it just kind of gets blown off? Yeah,
and
it'll break down. Not much.
Yeah.
It's a pretty critical thing, though, because we have to time it right, and we have to time it by variety and by vineyard.
Oh, no way.
Certain varieties, if you go a little too late, that leaf shrapnel will actually damage the berries. And so there are certain varieties, and this has all been something we've learned as we've gone, that you can't just go all at the same time. You have to hit certain varieties at certain times, and you need to pick your timing right. We go fairly early, and we have to hit certain varieties like Chardonnay first. Chardonnay seems to be very sensitive to that.
So because it lands on it?
It'll basically blow a pulse of air. It kind of breaks that leaf up, and then that leaf can actually cut the fruit as it's going.
No.
That little hard BB can actually get damaged by that.
Wow.
You'll see it later on.
Yeah.
Whereas certain varieties don't really seem to be bothered by it. The skin, it just depends on how much that skin is developed at that point and how sensitive it is. Certain varieties, it just does not bother at all. Like Gris is fine.
So you only have a couple things you're doing until October then?
Yeah, just a few. Yeah.
You're just watching for just a couple things. So there's so many. This is so interesting because I don't always. You hear some of the basics, but like that's the first time I've heard about leaf shrapnel and the timing of it, which you're obviously improving on every year.
Yeah, that's been a learning process
as you're doing it, and that's amazing. So some of those little cuts you said, like you didn't see them until later on as you're ready to harvest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you could see them later in the season. even as we get farther on, but it didn't. It was one of those things where we were wondering why it happened, and then it didn't take long to figure it out. Excuse the sprayer.
I want to turn the camera.
Yeah, so you can see it.
We have just a tiny little vineyard that we're sitting near. We thought we were way far enough. That was Arundel.
I didn't think they actually did that vineyard. That's funny because that vineyard you don't really need to spray.
No, I don't know if they got
just going for it.
That is Arundel is a red varietal that was planted there quite a few years ago. We were going to have a place where we could let our members and visitors go and have picnics, and it's like a show vineyard.
Yeah.
But it was heavy drought and some massive issues with the weather for a few years, and so it's kind of on the back burner, but we're still watching it develop.
We don't do anything with it either. And actually, last year's the first time anybody I know has made wine from it. Mike, who works in our cellar, harvested it himself.
He did?
Yeah, and he made wine from it. Man, that's loud. Where's it going?
Live in action.
Yeah.
Is he moving on to Chardonnay?
I don't know.
Okay.
He's going back. He's looping back.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. We'll see. But yeah, as far as I understand, the wine really wasn't anything worth noting. We just planted it so that it's something that we know that people like to walk through vines. And occasionally they'll take fruit, and it's like it's sort of our sacrificial fruit. So we're just like, go ahead.
Nice.
We don't mind.
Well, that's cool for Mike.
Yeah.
Mike's fun with us.
Yeah.
For what?
About a year
almost
and a half.
a year.
Well, it's been over a year now.
Mike?
Yep.
He was with us before Jake left?
No, it's been... yeah, he was. Because he came on board in March of, not this year, but the previous year. And Jake was still on board. And so we've had kind of actually a whole big turnover in terms of the cellar.
I remember that now.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when you brought him through in the winter and we were talking to him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, so we have a lot of new staff on board.
Yeah, they're amazing.
So Ethan just left to...
All right, so we had a little pause, little editing to do because of our wonderful vineyard team spraying around us, and we just wanted to make sure you could hear us. So we're going to pick back up. We had left off, I wasn't remembering when part of the production team had joined us.
Yeah.
And he was doing some, he took that vineyard harvest and made some wine. It was just a nice experiment for him. So it's been great to see these new guys. They've been working really hard and really fun to get to know. And
yeah, it's weird for me just kind of resetting like this. So we have sort of all new staff within the last year, but it's also it's both good and kind of sad. The good thing is that's the way this all naturally happens. So when you're in the wine industry, basically, if you want to keep moving up, either you stay with one company as they grow, and so you have room internally to keep growing, or you get a chance to move on to another winery within the area, and that's really the best way to do it. People have tried bringing in people from elsewhere, and it rarely works very well, just because of the unique difficulty of making wine here. And it just seems like the most successful things that have happened has been when you take somebody from another facility, give them a chance to elevate them, and then give them a chance to take more responsibility on. So Ethan left about a month ago. So he went off to Black Star to kind of train to take over winemaking responsibilities at their red facility. Jake left a little over a year ago for a winemaking opportunity down in Southwest Michigan. And so that's, those guys have been with me for a long time.
I visited Jake.
Yeah.
He gave me a tour of his
Good.
new digs, so that was interesting.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, Jake had been on board for, I want to say, 5 years. Ethan for a little over 6, and it's great to have that continuity. And so it's been a while since I've had to kind of like start over again.
Yeah.
But it's been cool. It kind of rejuvenates you a little bit. It gets you re-engaged into teaching.
Yeah.
More so than anything. And we have a great new staff here. I mean, we have 2 people who have been with us for a little over a year now, which is Mike and Jim.
Yes.
So Mike actually was a science teacher in high school for, I think it was 6 years. Not here in the area, but he did a little bit actually in the UP, and then a little bit in kind of Midwestern, Michigan. And he just decided, he wanted to kind of change of pace.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of kind of burnout with teaching lately, and it's understandable. And he wanted to change of pace, and it's been great. Somebody with that kind of science background and knowledge to be involved. So it's been really fun. And so he's taken on a lot of responsibility, and he's grown a ton just over the last year and a half. Jim has been on board for just about a year. He actually attended a brewing school in St. Louis, and so while it's beer, there's still a lot of crossover relevancy, and he seems to have really found a good niche here that he seems to enjoy, so that's great. And the cool thing is, now these guys get an opportunity to grow. They get an opportunity to elevate and keep experiencing this. And as we grow, they can stay with us until they retire, or they could, there's always opportunities elsewhere.
There might be, yeah. It's also a testament to you developing a team that other people want to grab people. And,
that's what we want to see.
They've learned and have done a great job. So that's neat. It's been cool to watch.
Yeah.
But I know it's sad to see friends go that we get used to working with, but it's exciting for them.
It's a good opportunity.
It's exciting for them to go and do new things.
Yeah, and I mean, it's always interesting during that interim period of trying to, I end up doing a lot more of the stuff I haven't been doing for the last few years. So I've been doing
How's that going?
been doing every level of job lately.
Do you remember everything?
Oh yeah, I remember everything. Doesn't mean I love everything. But it's good to kind of get back in there on the ground level.
Have you, when you're doing that, when you have to when you're training new people, I know always it's an opportunity to tweak things too.
Yeah.
Have you found things that you're like, oh, we used to do this, but now we're doing a little bit differently? Or?
I try to encourage people to kind of understand that that's something we always need to do, but it's definitely easy to do that reset once, because, Ethan was higher up, kind of on the chain of command to some respect. Once he steps out, it's sort of that chance for someone else to kind of step up, and then you can very easily reset things. And it's kind of nice. But I still encourage everyone, as things change, bring new ideas forward. Just because I learned something one way so many years ago does not mean that's the way it has to stay. That'd be
so many years ago. So many years ago. I'm just kidding.
It is. This will be my 19th harvest.
What?
Yeah.
In all of your
kind of
anywhere you were located?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. 19. Well done.
Yep.
That's a cool number.
20 would be better, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah. So. Do we have to wait until November?
Yeah.
To say 20? Okay. Well, that's this year?
No. So this year would be 19.
And then
the
20
next year
is
would be 20. Yep.
You know what next year is also? Is Aurora's
14,
10
so
year.
It'll be the 10, yep.
So 10 and 20 for Drew.
Yep.
Add it together and it's not his age.
No, it is not.
So the Pinot Noir
Yeah.
is amazing. This is the 2020
Yep.
vintage. Can anyone remember anything about 2020?
2020, I mean, honestly, the best thing about it was coming off of 2019. And that, like, it was that, like, renewed chance to really make something that you're really going to be ecstatic with. And I just say that because, 2019, just things did not ripen like we wanted to. And so we had to get really creative with how we approach things. A lot of the earlier ripening whites were easy to do, but the reds were very difficult to work with.
Yeah.
So 2020 was that kind of like that new chance to kind of get back to what you wanted to do. But overall, it wasn't like a insanely like ripe year. It was like a very middle of the road year. It was actually kind of on our average in terms of ripeness for the last 20 years.
Okay.
But it's still good. I mean, that's what you're hoping for. You're hoping to get to that, at least that point.
I mean, the people love this vintage, and this is 100% Pinot Noir from, is it multiple vineyards?
Yeah.
In the area that kind of get put together.
Yep.
And then one thing I was wondering about was Pinot Noir. People talk about it in lots of areas in the whole world. So is it always cool climate varietal, or do they grow it in other areas too?
They
like
grow
warm climate.
Yeah, I mean they grow it in other areas, and they would like to adorably call themselves cool climate, but they're not.
That has to change what you have then, right?
Yeah, I mean if you think about it, so look at say like Russian River is well known for their Pinot Noir, and calling that cool, it's a relative term. It's cool relative to the region and the area, or even Carneros there.
Okay.
It's cool relatively speaking, but it's not cool by any means. But the reason why you generally find it in cooler areas is just that you will miss a lot of nuance and development. And you will lose a lot of the acidity that makes Pinot Noir. It will get overripe because this is an earlier ripening variety. And so it will lose acidity, and if it develops too fast, you're going to lose a lot of interesting aromatics, which it's known for. You're going to lose a lot of interesting flavors. And so it really just isn't expressive if you're in too hot of an area. It would be very just generic and not discernible if it was in a hot area.
Is that general, like that you said it loses acidity if it's warmer?
Yeah.
Is that generally something that happens?
As the grape ripens, the sugars increase and the acid decreases.
Okay.
And so if it's a really hot region, you're going to get that acidity is just going to keep lowering. It's going to force you to harvest earlier. So somewhere where it's really hot, you're going to be harvesting it really early, and it's not getting much in the way of like actually proper development.
Okay.
So you need that plant to go through proper respiration and have like good day and nighttime temperature fluctuation.
Yeah.
And that's going to give you a lot of precursor development, so you can actually create these, varietal aromatics that are actually interesting.
So that's why here it is working. The Pinot Noir is.
I mean, it's definitely
has
more
that time.
Yeah, it's definitely more finesse because we are, Pinot Noir as it is. It's not a tannic variety.
Right.
It's very light. Acid is a benefit, and it does retain its acidity. But the color can be really difficult to work with. So we've just been learning over the years, just trying to find little tweaks, little tricks to getting better and better color over time.
Wow, this is
in our
beautiful.
Pinot Noir. Yeah,
are you happy with this one?
It's a work in progress.
You're always
I am.
critical, but I think people are loving it. And what are some of the aromatics that you're looking for? Are you looking for that when you're pressing at harvest, or are you looking for that as you're aging it?
Looking for that as it ages out.
In the barrel?
Yeah, you kind of hope that, but a lot of that's going to come from how you process it, as well as the fruit you're selecting in the first place, and where we're selecting it from. So we have a lot of different vineyards, a lot of different areas and clones that we can choose from.
Yeah.
And so that's going to determine what really gets expressed. But it's not really going to show itself for about 9 months.
Okay.
that's when you start really seeing what it's going to be, and the aromatics are kind of really starting to set in place.
And this was 14 months in the barrel?
Yeah, and
Approximately?
ideally I'd like to see a little bit longer. There was a little bit of pressure to get that one moved along.
Oh, that could have been me.
No,
No,
there are
not me.
people to blame.
Okay.
Don't worry, it's not
Okay.
you.
Woohoo! So,
Traditionally, I'd like to go minimum of 16 months with the Pinot Noir.
just a little bit longer.
Yeah, a little bit longer,
Okay.
and then somewhere, if I could do 18 months. So the tricky thing with aging is that I'm not trying to get more oak. What I'm trying to do is get a little more concentration, get a little more softening in that barrel environment over a period of time. So
Okay.
it's more just leaving it be, just to let it kind of mature a little bit before you put it in the bottle. It will still soften in the bottle, and it has in time.
There was a note that said something about spice tones. What is that? What are you looking for? What's spice mean in that context?
That generally speaking is more of a Pinot Noir characteristic. Some of it does come from the barrels itself, but the majority comes from you sort of get these like mental images of like clove and those kind of spices.
That it's kind of like it's spiciness, but it
it's-
doesn't have sweetness or
it's
or
the
cinnamon around it.
Tends to be the way the way Pinot Noir interacts with the barrels.
Oh.
So some of it is varietally driven, but then it's also the way it interacts with that toast profile, and so you
Okay.
get sort of these notes that are very reminiscent of things that we think of as spice.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Neat. It's always fun to dive into some of those. We hear those terms
Yeah.
so often that we accept it.
Yep.
This is what Pinot Noir is supposed to be, but like to really hear what is spice tone is interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's just like a very normal characteristic of it, and
Yeah.
it's very identifiable.
Yeah.
And it's just an easy way if you had a blind taste it, you'd probably pick it out as Pinot Noir because it is so characteristic of it.
Okay.
So,
Have you done any blind tastings lately?
no, I try not to anymore.
Okay.
I can get it
Tomorrow.
right every now and then,
I'm
but
gonna
not
do it
as good as I
tomorrow.
used to be. Yeah.
I haven't done that in a while either, but it's always fun to.
I mean, there very
So
much
fun.
there's a method to it, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it sounds like people are just kind of memorizing and guessing. They're not.
Yeah.
There's a method to it, and you're sort of working your way backwards.
Yeah.
You're starting at the end of at this product, and you're trying to figure out mentally how they got there.
Yeah.
And that should work you towards what it probably is.
Yeah.
So you're looking at things like you're looking at the color, you're smelling the aromas, what aromas are there, and then you're tasting it to see what are the tannins like, what's the flavor profile like, and then what's the acid like, what's the alcohol like, and that all is going to drive you towards what happened to get to that point, and then you're going to keep working your way back until you kind of arrive mentally at a variety. You might even arrive at, I know what the variety is, so what would it take to get it to be like that? And that's going to probably put you in a place.
Right.
And then in that place, once you're there, depending on the sort of age you're getting from it, and you might actually get vintage. That would be more based upon tasting things over time,
Like tasting
understanding.
experiences.
Yeah,
Like
tasting
having,
things over time. Like,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
reminds me of this vintage. You understand this vintage in this area.
Yeah.
Or you just shoot from the hip and maybe you get it right. Who knows? But
Well, I enjoy more vertical, like vintage tasting with the same wine
Yeah.
and stuff. That's kind of fun here.
yeah.
Through the years to see things. And one time I did do, somebody actually just came in with some bags over bottles and was, how do I say it? Like, egging me on to taste. So what I did was I tasted, and I knew it was not from around here.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely like a warm climate, not awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked Texas,
Mm-hmm.
just not because I don't have a lot of experience with Texas wine, but then I said the place I grew up here, it was Bingham, and there's actually a huge winery in Texas that's Bingham, and
That's what it was?
yes, and this person that was
just blown away.
and I just played it out.
Yeah.
I didn't tell him anything about how I guessed it.
Yeah.
Is that not so funny?
That's awesome.
So like that was my last time.
Yep.
I haven't done it again.
No. Just retire. Retire right there, and you're good. Yep. Yeah.
And that was a lot of years ago. So I'm sure Texas is doing an awesome job with a lot of wines. So I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not. It's just a whole different scene and different varietals, and that's why.
I don't know it very well.
I don't either. I just. It was
weirdly,
really funny.
My dad, his PhD was done at Texas A&M, and it was on the capability to grow wine or grapes in Texas. And so a lot of like his PhD's research was all what like kind of piloted the Texas industries. A lot of it was referenced. And so actually I always thought it was a little overblown and he was just, really exaggerating to some extent, but it turns out it's all actually true. And I met somebody, was it last week, from a winery called Messina Hoff that is one of the bigger wineries there. That really pioneered that industry, and their whole story is predicated upon the fact that my dad was his patient. He had a physical therapy business, and my dad was his patient for like some ankle injury.
Okay.
And they got to talking, and my dad told him what he did, what he was researching, and basically he ended up encouraging this person to plant a vineyard as like his first experimental vineyard, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And apparently
into this winery that you just messed
into that industry, basically.
That's
sort of what started it. Yeah.
Isn't that
to a large
incredible?
extent. I mean, he was sort of like Bruce was for this industry for Simpson Family Estates.
Yeah.
He was basically that for Texas.
Wow.
I always thought it was a big story, but then he was here last week. It's like, yep, and he actually handed me this book that actually goes into like their history and everything. It was wild.
I love that. I love that you are able to like see that, and I'm sure your dad loves it more.
The funny thing is, my dad texted me because they actually went down and visited him. My dad texted me the later and said he was like, "Oh, he gives me way too much credit." I was like, "Really? Like that's shocking."
That's amazing.
So, yeah, they were great people.
Yeah, that's
they were
really
fascinating.
Neat. That's so fun.
Yeah.
I years after my fluke blind tasting, there was a woman in here that worked for Bingham Winery in our tasting room at Aurora.
Cool.
So it was fun to chat with her.
Yeah. Nice.
Those are fun stories. You have some fun coming up. Some are fun. I heard you have a new toy. Can I call it a toy? It's something that you paddle with.
My new canoe. Yeah.
Is it a toy, or is this a piece of equipment that matters?
No, it's
greatly?
It's more of like a symbol of like life accomplishment. Like I always looked at like a canoe as being like a weird thing that like you get to a certain point in life, you're successful. Canoe is like weirdly the thing I pointed at as being like, this is the identifier. This is it.
I'm at canoe level.
It's maybe not like the peak of my life, but
it's a level.
Yeah, it is. It's a level of achievement. It is like I have achieved a nice canoe. And I feel like that's like a.
Sorry.
Yep.
That's amazing. And Aria.
She hasn't been. I haven't been on yet.
She has something to look forward to that you'll hand this.
Yep, I'm gonna go out on it tomorrow, and it'll be my
legacy.
Yep. Yep, if it lasts that long.
Is it so new that you haven't been out in it?
I just got it. Now, I did get it used. I did drive to Illinois to get
The
it.
symbol of
Yeah. Yeah. But I was very determined.
Wait, go
Yeah.
on.
Oh no, there's a whole story. Yeah,
Okay.
no. I had been looking for
Is
years.
this a specific
Yeah.
canoe?
Yeah, I've been looking for years for this specific one. And
Oh.
I saw it online. Somebody was selling it for, I mean, because they're really pricey.
Okay.
Brand new, and I'm like, I can't justify that right now. But somebody was selling it used. I'm like, 6-hour drive, I can do that for
Yeah.
like this price.
It sounds
So
like
I just
kind
got
of
up one morning,
too.
just did it.
You
Just
just
went and
did
drove
it.
and just bought it and came back. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
This is these are the things that I find fascinating to learn about each
The
other.
weird things.
The things that we
Yeah.
hold dear and exciting. So you haven't had your maiden voyage on the
Nope.
water yet?
Nope.
Are you gonna
That'll be
take
tomorrow
a
morning.
wine bottle and smash it on the canoe?
Yeah, that seems a little wasteful. I'll probably actually
It's like the saber.
Yeah, I'll probably just take my dog out like 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, like
yes.
super early. I was gonna take Aria out, but like I was like, "Do you want to go out? I'm gonna go out early." And,
No.
and she's like, "Ah." I'm like, "I can also come back and we can go again like later in the morning." She's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I'll do that." Yeah.
Second trip.
Yeah. So the first one's just gonna be with my dog. So.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
yeah.
Will you have to take a picture
I'll take
and
pictures,
show
yeah.
us.
Yeah, I'll take pictures.
That's awesome. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for you. tomorrow.
It's the next stage
Is
of
a
life.
Wonderful thing.
My first like life accomplishment
I
award
feel
was a hot tub. Now my next level is now canoe.
The hot tub came before the canoe?
Yeah.
Okay.
I needed that more, just physically for my body.
Okay.
In
All
order
right.
to survive.
I think I need to go through my list and revamp. my
everyone's got their
list.
own
Yeah.
levels of
Yeah.
accomplishment and what
Yeah.
signifies that level. That was
Yeah, that's it. That's really
Yep.
that's very interesting. I like this.
Yep.
Well, I wish you a wonderful weekend and canoeing and all the fun that's to be had.
Yeah.
And thank you so much again. I know there's so much going on all year round, and to take time to chat and answer questions is wonderful. So, and thank you all for watching. And let us know if you have any questions in the comments and what your favorite Aurora wine is.